The Little Root Lab is a homegrown, self-learning journey into IT and cybersecurity, narrated by Simon Arnold. It is being built from the ground up, documenting progression through systems, networking, and SOC concepts as it develops, including the mistakes, the learning process, and the real-world growth that comes with it. It is hoped that viewers find value in the series and are able to take something useful from the journey as it unfolds. Enjoy.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Little Root podcast, and I'm glad you're here. Wow, it's going to be a bit of a bender weekend. It's been a very, very good morning, but yesterday was, certainly, interesting, and that's where we're going to kick off today. So, welcome back. Yesterday was one of those lab sessions that didn't feel especially clean or polished, but those are often the ones that you learn from the most. It was interesting. I mean, over the last couple of days, I've been building a SOC Lab using Wazuh, focusing on brute force attempts, and the goal was simple: detect repeat failed SSH login attempts and trigger an alert once they cross a threshold, right? And that part worked. It was okay. I mean, I was able to generate failed SSH logins, monitor the logs, and see my custom rule trigger correctly. But seeing that possible brute force alert appear was a clear milestone, because it meant the detection logic itself was functioning. I mean, I was doing this late at night. It was like, finish at 11 o'clock last night. But the bigger learning really wasn't about getting the alert to fire. It was about everything else around it. And one issue I ran into was configuration management. It was editing XML files and making changes, but I didn't always have full confidence that I had saved them correctly or placed them in the right location. And I can imagine that's what a lot of people start with when they're using Wazuh. At times it made it hard to tell whether problems were coming from my rules or if they were coming from the configuration myself, if that makes sense. And that's an important lesson in itself, because in this kind of work, if you can't trust your environment, you can't properly trust your results either. I mean, I've had a level head since I've been starting Wazuh, and you'll find that in the second episode, which I'm also launching today, I've come full circle. But I've broken a lot of things in the process, and I've learned from that. I didn't complete a full test cycle, but it was a useful first step in thinking beyond just, does it alert, and towards, can I trust this alert? I mean, at this point, the environment has become a bit messy. I mean, obviously, it's gotten really messy, but I've still had a level head about it. After I've done multiple changes and experiments, I never lost my way through the whole thing. I mean, rather than continuing to patch it, I've decided to do a clean reinstall of Wazuh. It got to that point, and the plan is to rebuild everything from scratch, step by step, which you'll hear about in the second podcast. This time I'll be more deliberate about configuration changes, and I'll validate each stage as I go instead of making multiple changes at once. So tomorrow, which I did today, is a reset point, not because of things failed, but because I want a cleaner and more structured foundation to continue learning from. And one thing I've noticed about this process is how much repetition matters. Simple Linux commands, things like systemctl, journalctl, sudo nano, ls, -l, get used over and over again. At first they feel like individual steps you have to think through, but after enough repetition they start to become automatic, you know. And that repetition builds familiarity, and that familiarity is what makes it possible to actually focus on the system itself, rather than thinking about what each command does individually, I guess. You know, it's taken it away from the theory based to the more, you know, use it in the practical sense. Um, yeah, it's the kind of pattern recognition that develops naturally through hands-on work, you know. So overall, the main takeaway from last night's session is simple. I mean, building detection is not just about writing rules, it's about understanding how the system behaves, how configuration affect outcomes, and how to build trust in what you're seeing in the logs. And in the next episode, I would just clarify what I completely went through. And I did come out with a clearer process. So catch me on the next episode.